Just take this leash, Daniel.
Drainage! Drainage, Eli, you boy.
Sad Daniel Michael Blake Day-Lewis, or what you know as Daniel Day-Lewis, is usually considered the best actor ever, but that's subjective, so maybe one of the best if I correct. Starring many feature films and few TV shows in most times, Day-Lewis was great and exceptional. This is my fifth take on actors, for which I chose to talk a little about Daniel Day-Lewis and how I interpret his acting. And this will be a little longer than the other parts, so hook on and try giving me some of your own opinions about this actor after the end of the video.
I can never do anything good enough for you. And after the game, you came up to me and you said, Jerry, did you foul the ball? And I walked away from you. Do you remember now? I walked away from you into the dressing room. You followed me in there and you said again, Jerry, did you foul the ball?
In discussion of the performance of Jennifer Lawrence, I talked about voice acting, how one person acts with their voice. Outside of the body language, makeup, hairstyling or costumes, what comes outside non-artificial is the voice.
I pissed on it! Because I did foul the ball. What did it matter? We won. For once in our lives, we won.
Let me consider 6 of his performances that I have seen. There Will Be Blood, My Left Foot, Phantom Thread, In the Name of the Father, Lincoln and The Age of Innocence. Considering all these 6 movies, Daniel Day-Lewis used 6 different accents, which is quite surprising to think about if you ask me. Not just for me, even Daniel Day-Lewis in one of his interviews said something like how he would feel a post-anxiety phase after he would be done with a movie, because of how much time and effort he would give in that movie, that when it ended it would feel unbelievably empty for him, which if you think about you can understand how.
Built up my hatreds over the years, little by little.
Also, it was one of the reasons for him to give up acting. So one thing is obvious, his performance is ultimately effortful, with practicing accent for days for the film. He had his debut feature with Gandhi as someone named Colin, mainly a guy who didn't had much of a role but did enough of what he was supposed to.
Get off the pavement, you bloody coon.
Since that, he had performed in many other feature films and finally was widely recognized for his textbook depiction of cerebral palsy as Christy Brown in My Left Foot.
I need a light.
What?
I need a light.
I don't smoke.
I need a light.
I don't care how much physical inability he tried to show through the bodily performance, but that how much wholesome this performance was. The film wasn't a sad film, spent all the time to make the audience pity for the poor man, but the other way around. Even it didn't make it completely utopia as well, but remained in the middle, and stayed as much true as it could be with the autobiography.
Right. You have a go. Okay. Steady, steady. And one big breath.
Of course, if you see, other than just the physical transformation, he had worked on his accent as well. If I can imagine, he could otherwise still make an impact without the body language, just by his voice and reaction of his face. There is a pretty long table scene in the movie, around 6 or 7 minutes, which I guess is one of the greatest ever performances of all time.
I love you, Eileen.
And I love you, Christy.
No. I really love you. I love you all.
It was when this character was trying to convince Eileen, his caretaker, that he loved her in a table full of other people. As much as it was uncomfortable, as much this scene tried to show the authenticity in the most perfect way.
I'm glad you taught me how to speak, so I could say that.
See, there are many actors who performed a differently abled person all over the world, and so many of them were great as well, but it was perfect in every chord. It wasn't too much that way it could make it cringy, yet it was actually too much that it made it intense. It took every detail, the timing, the reactions, the faces. Daniel Day-Lewis never rushed into the dialogues. He took the perfect timing, delivering on every single dialogue, even every single word.
Why did you say you loved me?
Because I do love you.
Ah, you mean platonic love. I've had nothing but platonic love all my life. Do you know what I say? Fuck Plato!
Even solely for this performance, Day-Lewis could have been well known enough, but he was not only for this. Since My Left Foot, he delivered performances where all were great in their own way. In 1993, he starred in Martin Scorsese's movie The Age of Innocence, a drama about a love triangle that was so slow and subtle, told its story in patience, and literally had not much space to deliver any high-pitched emotions or anything. But in the crowd of his effortful performances as someone who is not so much of a common human being, his character here named Newland Archer, a lawyer already engaged with someone, falls for one of his clients, was pretty down to earth.
There are no promises that matter. That's all I've been trying to say. There is no one between us. There is nothing between us, May. Which is precisely my argument for getting married.
This though a romantic drama, but its seriousness is more in light than the romance part, maybe considering it's directed by Martin Scorsese. This is the kind of performance that doesn't get much popularity amongst the audience, but actually is great, reflecting the character the way as it is. Moving from this, in the same year he performed in another film in the name of the father that was quite popular with great performances literally from every single cast. Here he portrayed a character named Jerry Connell, a common boy used to be a robber and thief, falsely got accused of terrorism, including his family.
I didn't do this. I didn't fucking do it.
Day-Lewis even spent times in the cell where other crew members verbally abused him or threw water at him. Now here again his accent was different, an Irish accent. Being half an Irish himself, it was not so hard for the accent I suppose. It was a performance to show continuous humiliation, anxiety, anger or excitement. In a way this is better than all his other performances because of how he so quickly switched from all of the emotions I mentioned, scenes after scenes, moments after moments. It was a journey so intense and emotionally charged that it was getting so hard to move in my eyes whenever he would be on the screen.
Why do you always follow me? Huh? Hey, why do you always follow me when I do something wrong? Why can't you follow me when I do something right?
This film was kind of sad, though it was portrayed less darkly and more hyperactively, but it entirely made me sad, and easily Day-Lewis hold the most of the film, scared, frustrated and everything in between. And if you emphasize on it, you barely can connect it with his any other performances. In the Name of the Father is a film that usually criticizes the country for its corrupt system, as it falsely accused people with no proper evidence, and even after proven wrong, they didn't really ask for any apology.
I'm an innocent man! I spent 15 years in prison for something I didn't do! I watched my father die in a British prison for something he didn't do!
As much as it was real or maybe even relatable all over the world, it was the performances that kept the film going. By this time, Day-Lewis got already enough famous, being a one-time Oscar winner and with one nomination. Then after two performances in two average movies, he again reconnected with Martin Scorsese with The Gangs of New York, that including three famous cast was an incredibly famous movie also because it was nominated for 10 Oscars. His performance was praised as well. After that, Day-Lewis worked in The Ballad of Jack and Rose about a father and daughter stuck in an island together. The film didn't work much, but it didn't matter. With a year in the gap, he starred in Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood, an adaptation of the novel called Oil, written by Upton Sinclair, which was about a man's journey of becoming big by making his own oil industry, starting all by himself, working days and nights, and finally getting his way. By many people, this is considered one of the greatest performances ever, if not the greatest, and I personally sure belong among those people. There Will Be Blood is not a horror film, but it sure feels like one, especially the performance, his reactions, body language that doesn't show a single bit of emotion for the whole 2 hours and 38 minutes of the film. But it's not a person with no emotion though. He adopts a little boy and cares for him as his own, though ultimately fails at one point but never stops laughing.
You're a bastard from a basket!
He is an atheist who wants money and wants to extend his business way bigger without caring about any sort of obstacles. This film is about so many things altogether. It reflects the invisibly yet strong string between capitalism and natural human emotion. There Will Be Blood looks into one character, but it represents the whole society crazy for power and money above love. Even though Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't openly villainize him at all, though he is one, the story looks inside the people's greed and what possible reasons or facts raise them to such position where one would forget love and compassion over money.
Say it. I abandoned my child. Say it louder. Say it louder.
I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy!
There Will Be Blood take the age-old questions not really in a manner of asking but giving a possible answer. And none of this would be even possible and impactful without this performance that conveys perfection in every single moment. Now this only gets possible because of the perfect combination of extreme level of dedication and talent. Just if you take any shot from the movie with his face, he has that exciting toughness on the face, even while screaming,
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
or laughing, always.
With these people.
After There Will Be Blood, Day-Lewis worked in a musical called Nine that pretty much again has some terrible ratings, but he didn't take long to blow up again with his performance in Lincoln. That not only just a great performance but something that the whole movie was dependent on while going with such underwhelming writing. Lincoln, obviously, as you realize, is the biopic of American President Abraham Lincoln, who abolished slavery when the black people started a rebellion and a war started. Again in here he completely changed his voice and I'm pretty sure worked hard and long to do that. In that light of 1860s politics, Daniel Day-Lewis didn't have much high-pitched moments to portray in the film. He had some really great dialogue ready for him and he delivered them perfectly. And this one as well was a performance that possessed each seconds of perfection, to be honest.
That's why I'd like to get the 13th Amendment through the House and on its way to ratification by the states, wrap the whole slavery thing up forever and aye as soon as I'm able, now, end of this month. And I'd like you to stand behind me like my cabinet's most always done.
This performance was likable. It wasn't at all boring as it could be if someone else might play it. Moreover, it went more in front because of the other moments of the movie that I personally find a lot of trouble in. Whenever there would be some little moments of Day-Lewis trying to prove why it was important for him to abolish slavery, where some moments are sitting through.
Euclid's first common notion is this: things which are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. That's a rule of mathematical reasoning. It's true because it works. Has done and always will do.
In the crowd of whole lot political conversations, Lincoln easily had the chance to lose emotions. There Day-Lewis solely held on to that and got the film in track, and it was indeed one of his most heartly performances ever. Because in most of his movies, he's kinda dark person back from the people and society. And he again went on to something like that with Phantom Thread after 5 years of gap in the middle.
On foreign soil, behind enemy lines, I'm surrounded on all sides.
It's you who brought me here.
When the hell did this happen? Who are you? Do you have a gun? You here to kill me?
Phantom Thread, where he reconciled again with Paul Thomas Anderson years later. It was a movie about obsession over love and art. It was a faded film. It wasn't dark but was pale. It had a feeling all over as everything was not quite in the mood, and that's exactly what was the object, to portray the feelings and situation of Alma, who is basically the main character of the film more than the Daniel Day-Lewis's one named Reynolds Woodcock, who is a costume designer and takes his work too seriously.
Nothing is normal or natural or everything is a game. Yes, mister. No, madam. Yes.
Well, if it's
I don't eat this. I don't drink that. I don't.
It's my life that you're describing.
He doesn't like to talk with people much. He wants things to be stable and structured, not scattered all over. Their Alma is different and modern, believes in life to be lived at the fullest with as less care, at least less than him, what any sane person would do.
It's entirely up to you whether you choose to share it or not. If you don't wish to share that life, as apparently it's so disagreeable to you in every respect, why don't you just fuck off to back where you came from?
And at the final, considering he had mostly been in movies as a character so challenging, usually some kind of character that one cannot portray without long efforts, that's why he's so appreciated. One thing that may make people wonder is thinking about the excellence of a performer when they deliver something that often gets considered the greatest, even not just once but twice.
I told you not to tell me how to raise my family.
A question that might arise is how. The answer is always the effort. He's easily like one of the most effortful performers of all time, and that's a statistic. The various emotions all related to anger, not only just anger, these emotions are so strong, and whenever some actors play to be angry or frustrated person, they are usually the famous, considering Leo DiCaprio or Christian Bale. Maybe screaming is not so hard after all, anyone can do this, but above everything, what makes the performance full of life is how much the character the actor is in. Like in My Left Foot, the first of object was he had to be a cerebral palsy patient. He had to sit in a chair with his hands crossed over each other, head bent over one side, and portray the character all over the movie like that. Now that was an outside element. Can he bring out natural emotions? He sure does, there is no doubt. Otherwise, watching his performance would be an exhausting experience of seeing a frustrated, messed up man, but it doesn't turn up like that.
Fuck off.
With speech therapy, I could teach you how to say fuck off more clearly.
In the church scene of There Will Be Blood as well, while yelling, it wasn't just screaming, it reflected pain that I don't think any other actor could ever do while being the most intense yet full of life. It's usually best to recognize Day-Lewis with these two performances, but the other performances complete him as an actor who proves that he can do anything he is said to be.
He ain't earned the death! He ain't earned the death at my hands!
As comparing to Lincoln, it was in between of what he is good at. He can do a horror of a human being and also a quiet person in a hatred against the society. Lincoln had the both elements. In few moments he had to shout, he had to get mad a little maybe, but he had to, and it was such a comprehensive performance.
Meaning or worth until we cure ourselves of slavery and end this pestilential war. And whether any of you or anyone else knows it, I know I need this. This amendment is that cure.
Phantom Thread or The Age of Innocence might be his most subtle kind of performance, where it was all about the character's simplistic weirdness, no sort of over-the-top extremity. Though it's such a pity that he left acting, and also to think how much stress he had while acting. It's like knowing someone about something they're good at and later coming they always hated it. Though Day-Lewis sure never hated acting, but the opposite, he hated not doing acting. Above all, checking out all his performances, you can sure conclude he's kinda out of the world. There are so many actors who have kept some outstanding acting in their lives, even some maybe only gave good performances in their whole career, like Mark Ruffalo maybe. But something sure makes Daniel Day-Lewis different. The level of his performances is something you find once in a person's career, but on this guy it's more than once, which is singularly haunting enough. Hey there, that was the video. Check out my other takes on actors that you might not have. Also check out the older videos, top 10 lists and all. Till then, if you want to hook, you can get me on social media handles. I usually follow back, or you can contact me on WhatsApp. Till then, keep watching films and take care.